everyone. Welcome to INOCon Day 2. And I'm Vishruti, and I'm moderating the first panel of the day, Distribution in Emerging Markets. And we have specialists from this industry. We have Juan, who is the managing director of ADA Latin, joining us from Miami. And in a few months of him joining ADA Latin, he has been able to secure deals and grow ADA Latin and join some of the respected and the most amazing labels and artists in the Latin music industry. Next, we have Priya Dewan joining us from Singapore, who works at the Orchard as the VP of South Korea and Southeast Asia, and is also the CEO of Gig Life Pro. And she has been able to make systematically build key relationships for the Orchard in the Asian territory. And next we have Laure Duhard, who's the managing director of Believe Africa, the market that has everyone's growing interest and has grown by 8% in the last year alone. And we're really excited to hear key insights from her in this market. So I'd like to welcome you all to INOCon. And my first question for you guys is to tell us a little bit more about your work in the territory and how has the territory grown in terms of the music landscape in the last few years. Maybe we should start with Laure.
Okay, hello. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for the invitation. It's very nice to bring a little bit of our input experience and share experience. Yes, so I'm in charge of developing our activities, the activities of Believe in Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. So we started really 2.5 years ago only. So the evolution, we've seen it through the African community in Paris, because there was lots of bridges between French-speaking countries of Africa and Believe. So what I can see, so it's a bit early to see the evolution, but it goes quite quickly. It goes quicker on the stores than on the professionalization of the managers, the artists. We teach a lot we teach the artists to plan their releases. So because of the COVID, because it was also in one of the topics, artists became more aware that they can monetize their music and really optimize the monetization if they plan it and project themselves. So I think this has been quite a big change this last year, is the professionalization of the artists and the managers and labels.
Thank you so much for the key insights, Laure. Next, we should talk to Juan. So Juan, tell us a little bit more about your industry.
Well, also I want to thank you all for the invitation. You know, it's really nice to be here with my colleagues from Believe and the Orchard. What can I tell about Latin America? It's an amazing region, full of really nice people, and yeah, ADA Latin started less than a year ago, and we started late in the game. You know, there's been amazing competition around here for a long time, and but it's a really cool challenge as well, and we've been able to connect with a lot of artists, a lot of managers. It's a region that is growing really fast. I think is the fastest growing region currently based on the latest IFPI numbers. Massive. Brazil is incredibly massive with huge consumption levels. There's a lot happening in Mexico as well, in Chile. You know, there's a lot of really cool markets around and amazing talent. You know, it's a region where I guess, you know, with the urban explosion, I think the Latin music is somehow taking a big role in the global music scene, and so it's very interesting. What can I say? A lot of work. You know, we've been really busy, I guess, as my colleagues, because the market, as I said, is growing. So great opportunities. I don't know if probably we will share more details with you in a minute.
Thank you so much. And Priya, tell us a little bit more about your work in Asia.
Thanks, Vishruti. So I actually joined the Orchard in 2012 as their first employee back in Asia to kickstart their strategy. It was around when the global services were entering the region. So it made sense for us to come in and represent. I started off as the director of Asia to strategize for the entire region, and quickly identified that we needed to set up offices in Japan and in Greater China, which we have done since. And I am now the VP of Southeast Asia and South Korea, as you mentioned. Beyond the global services entering the markets, which basically meant that, for me, it meant that Asian artists also had a global platform that they could now access to promote their music globally. I've also seen the emergence of a lot of global brands taking a bigger interest in the region, whether they're distributors, whether they're platforms, social media, labels, what have you. So it's a really, really, really exciting time for Asia.
Thank you, Priya. And to go back to Juan, you were mentioning some different markets in the Latin music territory. And could you tell us a little bit more about the peculiarities of these different markets and also the key players in your territory?
Key players. I have to be careful because I have to be politically correct. But you know, the video consumption in the region is massive. So YouTube is I think it might be the most popular music platform around, with massive numbers. Of course, Spotify, it's a very important player. Amazon is also getting the market very aggressively and also very fast. They're putting teams in several markets, and the other players, Apple, Deezer, you know, about the region and about the markets. I guess this is not a trend just in Latin America, but local music is more local than ever, you know. So it's because of the streaming platforms and their influence in their territories. You know, local is becoming very important. The challenge is how to make those local hits regional or global, you know, and that's where we want to play a role in making it happening, you know, with the way we work as a company and not just as a company, but also as a group. You know, how can we expose those artists into larger audiences and to connect with more fans around the world? I guess that's the thing. But just to stress, you know, local is more local than ever, and there's a lot going on in Brazil. There's a lot going on in Mexico, as I mentioned. There's another trend coming from the South Cone, from Argentina and Chile and Uruguay, and also here in the US and Mexico. The regional Mexican genre is also growing. It's been the backbone of the Latin music industry for years, because that's where the sales have been historically. But for a minute, when the streaming explosion happened, for a minute the growth was really slow. But in the past couple of years, it has speed up, and it's growing really fast. And there's a lot, you know, there's a really nice opportunity there with the regional Mexican genre.
Thank you so much, Juan. Priya, would you like to take this question next?
Yeah, so the key players, as I mentioned, the global streaming platforms have come into the market a bit late. And in the meantime, in markets like China, Greater China specifically, and Korea, there are a lot of local platforms that have taken dominance. And platforms like Melon and Genie in Korea. There's, of course, Tencent that has QQ and Kugo and Kuo in China, and NetEase, KKBox in Taiwan, Jukes in Southeast Asia. So one of my first goals when I started off at the Orchard was to do as many local service deals as possible, because you know, it works both ways. And I pitch our services to Asian artists about the value of being on global platforms like Spotify and Apple and Amazon, Pandora, et cetera. It works both ways, right? So if you want to grow your audience in some of these markets, it's really important that your content is available on all of the local dominant platforms. And yeah, in terms of the other cool key players or sort of, I guess, trends in the market, especially coming out of Korea that I've seen, is that they're very, very ahead of the times in technology and using technology in music and in organizing fan bases. So, you know, and portraying content. So from everything from video streaming platforms like VLive to fan communities like Weverse to incredible live stream, multi-camera angle live stream platforms like Venue Live. there's a lot of local players in the market, which is really exciting. But the challenge is trying to figure out and maneuver who these people are, because there's not a whole ton of information available out there as well.
That sounds like a lot and super intricate as well, with all the platforms you mentioned for fan engagement, etc. Pretty cool.
Yeah,
Laure?
that's another one actually. They're really getting into metaverses, and there's a very popular platform called Zepeto, where you can create your own avatar. Just throwing that out
That's
there.
pretty cool. Yeah, for our viewers, please do try and make an avatar on it. So, Laure, would you tell us a little bit more about the African markets?
Yes, it's a bit like Juan. I mean, yeah, I think YouTube is the first one, of course, because it's free. And then Apple arrived only 5 years ago to Africa through South Africa only, and they launched 50 more countries 1 year ago in Africa. I still took it, especially French-speaking countries. Spotify arrived in 2018, I think. So it's only 2-3 years, so they didn't catch up yet, Apple. Then Deezer is present because Deezer is a French platform, and they were one of our first partner in 2007. So when the students were not born, and so Deezer is quite important on the African market as well. And then the local platform, I think the main one is Boomplay, who is in telco in the telephone. Chinese or Korean, I don't know. Boomplay is the biggest application. And there are lots of local services like MTN, the application Music Time, through Simfy. We try to work with local platforms, even if it's really difficult, because they don't have the technology and the strengths to ingest all the contents. But we try to help because they're really focused on editorial and local editorial, which is what the editor from South Africa don't do, because they are not staffed enough to have people for each country, each style of music. So there's a good dynamic. And of course, the social network, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, that's quite very active, and we monetize the content. I would add that I think 3 years ago when we started Africa, we thought that it will take, well, I thought my boss had a longer vision because he had this experience in the past, but I thought in 3 years' time it will be exploding. And finally, I must say, after 2.5 years, I see that there are still probably 3 years before people convert and pay for music. So it's going to be a bit longer, but it can also be quick. I don't know, it can happen in 2 years. The data, internet access is better, cheaper. So it can be also a good surprise if it explodes before.
So going off what you said, Laure, maybe we should talk a little bit more about the key challenges you all face in these territories, be it cultural considerations or tackling piracy or internet penetration. Maybe Laure, we can start with you. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Okay. Well, we really explain to the artists that we help them to build an audience, to engage their audience, and to monetize. And we have to explain to them that they can get more money at long term if they respect, if they don't pirate themselves, because most of the artists, as soon as they release a track, they want to share it on YouTube without monetization. They don't plan a release, so we can't pitch their track to the stores and trying to get into playlists, because it's got to get new releases delivered at least 10 days before to really prepare and create the need of the audience who wants to hear this track that has been announced. So this is changing a little bit, but yes, we explain that it's more important that the artist doesn't share free his track, because they send it to WhatsApp. They even upload on a pirate website to say that they had 1 million of uploads. Yeah, but you got no money with this. So it's we really have to educate the artists, and to one of the main problem in Africa. I think people really have lots of difficulties to project themselves. They don't plan. They want to see the impact of their track as soon as it's been created, without creating the need. So that's lots of learning we have to do.
Thank you so much for that, Laure. Juan, would you like to take this question next?
Yeah, I guess also I like to touch the education point, because despite the artist camps have become savvier and savvier than before, because there's a lot of information and you have a lot of resources. And for instance, this program is one of them. These programs didn't exist just 5-6 years ago. So there's more people that understand the markets, but also this is not an easy business, and it requires skills and it requires experience, and sometimes when we deal with artists, as Laura was just explaining, sometimes there's a lack of understanding on how it works, and also because the business is trending towards distribution somehow, especially in this region, where the artists are the ones that keep control on their masters. Of course, it requires that they get savvier and they get better on how to handle their releases. So I guess there's a lot of education, a lack of understanding, understanding the rights, and also as Laura was just explaining, the importance of the commercial element, because although free sometimes it might work for a part of a strategy if you have a long-term plan. If you base everything on that, then it's going to be really hard for you to monetize and for make money out of that, because we all want all our music creators and artists and managers, to have a decent life, to live, out of music in a decent way. So what else? Piracy used to be an issue. I don't think it is anymore, because all this pirate consumption has shifted towards streaming and at least ad supported streaming services, but and I guess also might be because there's so much music coming out, so then the challenge becomes how, with so much happening, how do you make this more visible? So, but I guess this is a challenge of the streaming world in general, and I guess it's been the music industry challenge forever. But now that there's so much content and so many different platforms, and it used to be just a few players. Now we can count probably 10 or more, and as Priya was explaining, in Asia, with all the new players that have come up after the pandemic, there's more and more and more and more. So how do we manage that flow of content, and how we make it relevant? Once again, how can we connect that with an audience so it becomes profitable? I guess, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much for that, Juan. There's some really good insights in there. Priya, would you like to take this next?
Yeah, sure. So I guess one of the challenges with Asia as a region is, it's very often lumped together as one thing, and as some of us know, it's actually a collection of a lot of very, very different countries who speak different languages, who have very different cultures, music tastes, etc. I think the localization and language element is especially important to consider in markets like China, Japan, and Korea. And Southeast Asia, it's not as relevant, but it's still, obviously it was actually both ways for Asian artists to break out outside their home market, or for international artists to enter a new market. There needs to be some sort of stickiness or connectivity. Like I had a realization when I put out a release by a Vietnamese artist that I started working with named Juan. And his first single, I loved it. And I realized that I couldn't pronounce it and I couldn't search for it. So his next single was titled La Vie, which is still, used in Vietnam. It's a French word, and it's something that people can search for and remember and recognize. So we have that's one challenge of Asia, is that we just have a collection of a lot of different countries. The other challenge is, for most Asian markets, international content consumption is quite low, around 20%, right? Especially when you're talking about Japan, Korea, and China. And so international artists are really vying for a very small piece of the overall pie. And the other challenge we faced is that historically, you've had a handful of major media companies who have kind of controlled the scene. And, whether that's controlling all of the content or owning all the rights to content. And the cool thing now is that we're seeing a trend for artists, and we probably will get into this later, Vishruti. I'll keep that part of the conversation for later. But the other challenge is a lack of infrastructure. So one thing that I missed from working in New York is that industry, a lot of opportunities like this, where you have workshops, where you have A2IM and societies and organizations. So that's basically why I launched Gig Life Pro, is to create that education and networking for the next generation of music industry professionals across the region.
Thank you so much for that, Priya. So going off of what you said, how do international artists then enter these markets? What are they aiming for? Are they looking at localization of content? Are there ripple effects taking place, like you break into a city or a region that helps you break in the territory? Or how does it work with each of these territories? Maybe Priya, you want to take it first.
Sure. So I like to divide it up by Southeast Asia. India is its own thing. Greater China is its own thing, but honestly, mainland China is even its own thing. Korea is its own thing, and Japan is its own thing. I would choose based on what the data tells me, really, like where am I already trending? And localization in some markets is really important, but the most important for me is making sure you're on the right platform. So, whatever label or distributor that you're working with, just really making sure that they have the appropriate reach in these markets, and that your content is made available on at least the most popular platform in each market. Label services historically has not existed, like third-party PR, radio, marketing companies, but we've seen an influx and rapid growth of these sort of companies popping up all over across the region, which is really exciting for anybody who wants to give it a little extra push, which I believe is the same strategy that's used in developing markets as well.
Thank you. And Laure, is it different in Africa, or it's pretty much the same strategy, would you say?
Yeah, it's a bit the same, because in Africa, it's 54 countries and a different region, and even a region like West Africa has got some French-speaking countries plus Nigeria and Ghana. So yeah, it's very different. What I can say is that music, Nigerian music, so Afrobeat, Niger music, this is listened by nearly all African people and beyond this, because you also, in the UK, you have charts of Nigerian music, for example. And because of the successes of Davido, Wizkid, or Burna Boy, so this is a country of, the people are looking for the next new star, Nigerian artist. In the other region, it's very local. For example, in Senegal, people will mainly listen to Mbalax. In Ivory Coast, Congo, they will listen all the local style, coupé décalé, soukous, rumba, and what they call Afrobeat now. It's not the Afrobeat of Fela Kuti, it's the Afrobeat, it's a mixture of urban music. and sung in many different languages. So in Congo, in Lingala, in Wolof. So yeah, each region has its specificities, and just to say that somebody in Nigeria or South Africa will not listen to music from Ivory Coast, or it's really different. In South Africa, one of the main genres is amapiano. It's a kind of how do you say, a kind of deep house music. So and also, if you look at the charts of South Africa, there are lots of songwriters, plus all international artists like Ed Sheeran and even Leonard Cohen. So I think every country is to be taken differently. And actually, I don't remember the question, the initial question. Sorry.
I was asking you how the international artists break into these key territories. What should they focus on?
Yeah. So yes, I could add that I believe since we started in 2005 in France first, and then Italy, Germany, UK, step by step East countries, and then now Asia, India, and now Latin America as well. The idea is to sign local artists for local audience as a start, because when the stores started to open in these regions, they say, okay, we open in China, we need some Chinese content. So we had to hire people and to sign artist and label. So really, each country needs its local audience. And I think before, I've been working as export manager for many years in the music physical industry. People have first to have an audience locally and to secure it before going to the States, like maybe Davido did. He went to Los Angeles, but finally came back because he needed to be at home. He was better considered as a national superstar than in LA among all the other artists. So I think it's of course it's good for an artist to export himself. It's fantastic, but we first want to secure local artists with a local audience. That would be the basic, very fair fan base and very engaged fan base before he goes sometimes to touring internationally. That's great. Yeah.
Juan, what do you think? Is it the same in Latin America?
I was thinking while I was listening, I was thinking what to say, because the situation here, it's historically, we have consumed a lot of international music, even to the point that some record labels, they don't even sign local artists, they just go, there exists just to move international content around. And I don't know, and before the pandemic, because after the pandemic, it might be a different story. Before the pandemic, I remember when I used to work at Sony or at EMI, that I used to handle international artists. When we looked into social media statistics, Mexico and Brazil, they were always, the top in the top 5 markets, of how big the fan bases were. So it means that people are engaged via social media, or were engaged via social media with all these massive acts. And then, of course, with especially in Brazil, in Mexico, there's been always a very vibrant live scene. So I guess they toured over there and they filled out, like big venues or big arenas. In other territories, live has exploded in the past couple of years. So for instance, in Colombia, in Chile, in Argentina, there's like a really nice circuit of festivals, but they didn't exist 5 or 6 years ago. So, but that's for big artists, But if you are an indie artist, or I think it's gonna be very tough, and probably if you don't have the live active, it's going to be even harder, because as I mentioned, local is more local than ever. If you check, the playlists and the charts of the platforms, is driven by local content mainly. And I guess it's because of the pandemic somehow, because touring stopped completely, right? But also another formula and I use the word formula because it has become a formula, is the featuring, you know, and so connecting, doing collaborations with other artists. And in the Latin music, that's how Latin music has become what it has become, you know, what it is right now, by collaborating with other artists and adding up fan bases, and I guess that has been part of the strategy. But I like to see what's going to happen after the pandemic. Artists, you know, they were not touring, so they were creating on their homes and on their studios, and I think that we're going to see in the months to come an influx of even more content coming, which, by the way, what I've heard is amazing, because, you know, one thing is when you have an artist touring and doing promotion and not focusing on music, when you have an artist that is hit by a pandemic, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of social movements, you know, at least in my region, there's a lot going on, you know, with social problems across the region. So there's a lot of content to talk about and to you know, to write about, and they've been locked on their homes, writing and producing music. And I think we're about to experience an amazing, you know, period for music. At least that's my feeling from what I've heard that is coming from our partners and our clients and our labels and artists. I think that the music that is going to be released in the months to come is going to be amazing. But once again, it's local music, so it's a tough one. We will have to wait and see how this pan out with the pandemic, with the post-pandemic, eventually, my God, and hopefully soon. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think this has made me, and I'm sure our viewers too, excited for all the upcoming music that we're going to see. So that brings me to the post-COVID strategy. I know we all hate this word right now, but I think it's important to talk a little bit about how, in your experience, artists have pivoted in this time, and what does the strategy look like for your artists? Maybe Juan, you can take this.
Well, I guess, yeah, amazing music is going to come. I don't think just from Latin America. I guess it was the same, because we were all, for the first time in our lives, we were on the same situation at the same time, in the same problem for the first time ever, you know. So I guess we all, I don't know, I like to hear from Laura or from Priya, you know, about that. But I think we're going to face an amazing period of great music and great musicianship. I don't know if you're aware, but in this country, in the US, where I'm based now, there were no guitars. You know, guitars sold out, and piano sold out, and drum sets sold out, because people, you know, they needed to do something at home, so they got back to play instruments, which is fantastic. So hopefully we will see something really in the months to come. We will see this with this, you know, a lot of great content that will come. I guess the other challenge might be, and this is not about streaming platforms, but the other challenge is that because the big artists are going to start touring, right? And they're the ones that will sell the tickets first. It's going to be also very challenging for small artists to tour, because the slots are limited, and they're going to be taken by the ones that sell, you know, a lot of tickets. So I guess that will be a challenge, because I'm a true believer of you know, of the music that is being played, and that is being played in all sorts of, in different countries. And although, you know, streaming platforms are super important, word of mouth is also very important, and that's how you create those movements in the world. So we have to wait and see. But also, I also want to highlight one thing, which is if we had doubts about the digital world, because we are all digital distributors, right? And it means that everything needs to be done digitally. And if we had any doubts about, you know, digital and how important it is after the pandemic, that's gone, because now everybody is into this. You know, we were forced to become digital savvy people. And it means not just with this kind of platforms as the one we're using now, but also streaming platforms and social media and the virtual worlds and you know. So I guess that's also that's going to be very interesting, because we used to deal with that lack of understanding or lack of embracing of all these tools, but now we all had to do it. And if you were not sure about it, I think you are now.
Thank you so much for that, Juan. So Priya and Laure, what do you think? Is it the same? Is it looking the same in Asia? The post-COVID strategy, what is it looking like?
Oh,
Yes, I just want to jump. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go
Priya.
please.
I wanted to jump on what just Juan said when he said that artists have been very creative during COVID, during lockdown, and we expect lots of good music. I can tell you that everything that was created during lockdown in Africa has always been released without any plan. So that we had lots of releases, but acoustic version of all the tracks. But I think, yeah, in the featuring, we might have some stuff that is not released yet, and that we can, because the collaboration take a bit longer to finish. But still, what Juan said, it's very difficult for an artist today, because before an artist, he was just making music and being productive, creative, going to studio work. And now we ask him so many things. When he doesn't have a manager or a community manager to work on this, and we keep saying, go to TikTok, do a challenge, do this, do that, deliver some content. I think it's very hard. And there's a new identity of artists now. It's very difficult for those who are not digital savvy, as Juan said. So it's we should create schools for future musicians, or a program at Berkeley to train artists to use the tools of the platforms, to use all the communication tools developed by the platforms and developed by their distributors. But it's hard. I think it's very hard for artists, for some who are not digital friendly.
Thank you,
Yes,
Laure.
absolutely. I mean, it's similarly, like echoing both Juan and Laura, is for artists, creating content is more important now than it ever has been, because everybody's just stuck at home waiting to consume content. At the same time, everybody's creating a ton of content. So it's important to create a lot of content that is engaging and that stands out, and that's on the right platform. And it's an ever evolving landscape. That said, there's also, it's an opportunity for artists to focus on different revenue streams. And, you know, there's a lot of artists who have done really well with like the white label live stream platforms and subscription platforms, and branding and creative sync, creative interactions with gaming, NFT. It's really forced artists, I feel like, to rethink their revenue streams and their strategy. And for us, it's been really great, because it's forced them to put a lot more emphasis on the recorded side of the business, because that's something that they can actually still produce and still monetize on fairly easily right now.
Thank you so much for that, Priya. With that, I think we are at the end of this panel, but I
Wow.
had really fun talking to you all, and the insights were just great. So for our viewers, do look into the local platforms. I think that's the key. And the other one for independent artists is collaborations, because touring may not be as easy as one said for independent artists. So yeah, thank you so much for all these great insights, and I hope to see you in Valencia in person soon.
Thank you so much for inviting
Thank you,
us.
everyone.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Goodbye from Paris.